Spencer Rattler, Chris Olave, and the New Orleans Saints host Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in an NFC South rivalry matchup. Let's start with New Orleans because that was a road loss, I think, that stings against the Chicago Bears. They dominated the middle eight of this game. Yes, they fell down by a 20-point deficit, but they were able to crawl out of it. The deep explosive play to Chris Olave, and they hit him again for the touchdown, making it a 20-7 game into the second half. All right. And then, boom, they go right down the field, hit him again on a third down, and it's a 20-14 game. Unfortunately for New Orleans, they let Chicago drive the length of the field and tally a field goal, and it just felt from that point that it was going to be tough to win that, especially after the Rattler interception that was caught by Kevin Byard. But New Orleans is 1-6. I think this team is better than what the record indicates because of the fight we've seen. Chris Olave has shown he's still one of the better wide receivers in the league, a bona fide number one threat. For Tampa Bay, you have to absolutely take him out of the game. I would rotate the coverage to have him doubled for over half of the snaps. This is a type of player that I just want to do everything I can to make sure he does not beat me. You'll see Emeka Egbuka go against Chris Olave, two of the former Ohio State teammates there in Columbus. For Tampa Bay, very disappointing loss on the road at Detroit. That was a game they felt like they had a great shot at. They were getting Mike Evans back, and I just got to say, I feel for Mike Evans. I feel for Tampa Bay, wishing him a healthy and speedy recovery. Broken collarbone, the concussion. So just a very sad sort of turn for him, one of the more veteran players. He's been so healthy throughout the extent of his career and so impactful. You saw the one-handed catch he had in this game. He's an unbelievable player, a lock to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So without him in the lineup, and it looks like no Chris Godwin in the lineup, as recording this video on Wednesday, some of the status of guys like Hassan Reddick, of Chris Godwin not playing. So it's going to be the Emeka Egbuka show. Once again, it's going to be Egbuka probably getting somewhere 8 to 10 targets in this one. They're going to be relying on him. Bucky Irving, once again, he was not practicing when the media was present on Wednesday. I'm recording this video on Wednesday afternoon. So again, the status of Bucky Irving, who is turning into a bona fide top 10 running back in the NFL, without him in the lineup again against New Orleans, it makes it a little bit tougher. Now, Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield, they had confidence that they could get the football to other guys. This is a deep wide receiver core, right? With Tez Johnson now developing really well into a threat on this offense. K. Dotton, the tight end, you've always known can be a high volume target that can be effective against teams. So you saw 9 targets for Otton, 9 targets for Tez Johnson, 12 targets for Emeka Egbuka. Definitely going to be seeing something reliant a bit closer to that. What really shocked me, though, was how unwilling Tampa Bay was to run the football. They were really trying to chase the points. They were down 14-3, went down and scored that touchdown. Detroit was able to come back with the response, but they just abandoned the run game entirely. I don't know what else to call it when you only have 12 total rushing attempts in a football game besides abandoning the run. That cannot happen. 50 attempts from Baker Mayfield. It was clear, I know, the game plan going into this game, we're going to attack the hurt, the banged up Detroit Lions secondary, but it was clear that Baker Mayfield was under duress throughout the game, sacked 4 times. It was obvious he wasn't his normal dominant Baker Mayfield he's been the last 3 seasons with explosive plays in the passing game. He missed a good 5 or 6, should have had Egbuka for a touchdown in the end zone, missed him on a crosser. 2 other throws were a little bit errant trying to target him. Definitely could have had a massive performance from Emeka. Could have easily gone over 100, 120 yards and a touchdown if he hits probably 3 of the 5 or so throws that seemingly Baker has been hitting this season. I know it's a very high standard, but the expectation has been created from Baker and his success. Now, for New Orleans, how do you attack Tampa Bay's defense? This is a Tampa Bay defense that just gave up 164 yards on the ground to Detroit. Now, they don't have the style of running ability that the Detroit Lions do. Alvin Kamara is a little bit older. He only ran the football for 28 yards against Chicago. That's certainly a little bit concerning. And Tampa Bay has historically had I guess over the last 5 years, a much better run defense than what the Chicago Bears had. So not being able to run the football against Chicago, and they only ran it for 44 yards on 17 carries against the Bears. They were trying to establish that. And so simply enough, Spencer Rattler, you got to take care of the football a little bit better. Give your team a chance. They would have had a chance in that second half if he only threw one pick. Let's just say, taking that shot, trying to make a play. I understand it there on the pick. That was the deep ball intercepted by Byard. But a couple of the other ones at the end, 4th and 1. Look, he's got to make a play on a 4th down. That one interception, that sort of inflates the statistics to a poor performance against a Chicago Bears defense that has been insane. I believe 15 takeaways in the last 4 games. They're on a historic type of clip right now. For New Orleans, again, in the ground game, I think you just have to try and stay in the game. Like that type of style that we've seen. I watch a lot of college football. I talked about it in the show. The Michigan Wolverines, I always talk about it. This is a team that runs the football a lot, control time of possession, trust their defense a little bit here. Not that you can fully trust against Baker Mayfield, but it's been shown that without Bucky Irving, Tampa Bay wants to throw the football. That means the time of possession numbers won't be so high. If I'm New Orleans, I try and shorten the game and only throw the football somewhere in the 20s. I think they have a great shot to win this game if Spencer Rattler only has 24, 25 attempts on the day, and they can have success running the football. It's got to be around 30 carries. They didn't have any balance, 32 attempts to 17 carries. That's what happens when you trail by a wide margin in the National Football League. You're going to wind up trying to have to chase the points, and you get away from that balance. So can they stay balanced? Keep the run game involved throughout the day, and they'll have a shot against Tampa Bay. This team will not be as explosive just simply because of the lack of personnel out on the field. Not having a Mike Evans or Chris Godwin for them or Bucky Irving. This is a little bit of a shell of what Tampa Bay's offense can be, what the potential of this team is. It's really unfortunate for Tampa Bay because they were looking like this could be a team that has a chance to no doubt compete in the NFC to be a representative for that conference in the Super Bowl if they were fully healthy. But maybe for them, it somewhat evens the playing field because you see injuries to teams like Detroit and you see other teams around the conference and the NFL having to deal with all these injuries. It's almost like who can be the more healthy squad going into the playoffs to give themselves a chance, find a way to sort of limp into the playoffs, and it's going to be very tricky to win a game. It really just comes down to getting there. Get yourself into the postseason, give yourself a shot, and it's any given Sunday. It really is in the NFL. That season has proved that more than ever. You've seen the NFC dominate a little bit more. The NFC this year, it's a much deeper and stronger conference overall. If I'm Tampa Bay, again here, Rachaad White, he has run the football well. You really do need to try coming out in this game to run it. You just saw the Chicago Bears run for over 210 yards on the Saints, so there is a little bit of a success to be had against them. And what looked like against Detroit was that's a game plan that frankly you might see again if they do find themselves in games, which they will be playing the Los Angeles Rams later on in the season. Some good opponents here. That one is, I believe, on the road at SoFi Stadium. So that type of matchup, it's just tricky when you play very tough opponents, especially on the turf, on the road, away from your home crowd, and it can get away from you, and then it's just on Baker Mayfield. I don't think that game damaged fully his chance to be an MVP player. It's a type of game that would certainly help him, but he's going to have a lot more opportunities down the stretch. When you have a guy go down that puts a bit more on the quarterback's plate, is this guy truly the most valuable player for a team, or is he a guy that's able to drive the car better depending on what type of car he has able to drive, depending on what sort of talent there is around him? I think Baker Mayfield can do very well if he has a little bit less to deal with, but thankfully for Tampa Bay, they do have that depth. If they didn't decide to really add to that receiving core with the injury to Chris Godwin early in the season in 2024 and go get Egbuka, get a Tez Johnson and hit on Johnson. Remember, there were 200 picks or so in front of this guy, and they wind up grabbing him in the second round. Very successful career at Oregon. A good kid overall, a great route runner, but his draft stock just fell because he didn't run the 40-yard dash that was assumed he'd be able to run it in the 4.4s. Or even below that based on his speed and his quickness. But it's shown it does not matter what the 40-yard dash was, what he ran with in his underwear. This kid creates separation. He's great with the ball in his hands. He can make people miss and is a threat to get into the box when you give him his opportunity. So I'm very excited for Tampa Bay. Tez Johnson, I know it's next man up in the mentality. It sucks that Mike Evans goes down, but if you are a team with the moxie, the ability, the mental toughness to actually make a run, you're going to have to be doing it without a Hall of Fame caliber player in Evans who's still been playing at the same level he has for 10 straight seasons. But it is an opportunity for Tez Johnson to just seize this by the reins and turn himself into a starting player at the wide receiver spot in the NFL and be relied on and have a lot of opportunities. He gets the chance to do that. I like Tampa Bay to win this game. The quarterback position is a major advantage for them. I think they get the win 31-22 on the road at New Orleans. It's tough to win on the road, especially a place like New Orleans. If New Orleans were very competitive, that is an environment that's tough to play in. But the Saints are not who they used to be with Breeze and guys like Michael Thomas and a younger version of Alvin Kamara and a healthy defense that was just dominant with Mario Davis and Cam Jordan. It's a little bit of an age roster now, and Kellen Moore's doing his best. I do think he can have success with New Orleans. It just will take time. They're going to have to add weapons. And look, you talk about the Ohio State guys in Olave and Egbuka here in this game. I think that's where you should go in the first round of the draft. You're trying to build around a quarterback, see what you have in Rattler. This year, there will be a Carnell Tate. There will be a Jordan Tyson. There's going to be a Mekhi Lemon. Those caliber of players in this draft to have your pick from where New Orleans is probably going to be picking in the top 8. Confident enough that you can say that right now. So you'll have a chance to potentially grab one of those guys or maybe trade down a little bit and still grab one of those players and add maybe a second or a third round pick. That's where I would go for New Orleans. Just watching this offense, they need a little bit of an injection and for life to them, a bit more playmakers. It's clear that Olave's got a lot of juice left to him. Overall, I like the Bucs with the win on the road. I got Baker Mayfield in a bounce back performance here. Let me know in the comments who you think wins this game. Does New Orleans have a shot at home, or is this Tampa all the way? Appreciate you so much for watching this video with Blitz with Blender. I'm Josh Blender, making NFL and college videos every day. Appreciate you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Best player in college football. That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blender. To the 40, 35, 30.